no one's gonna like me saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I feel like everything about this Michael Jackson movie is off and that Michael is rolling over in his grave. Walk with me, let's go. So as you all know, Michael the biopic is dropping today, April 24th in theaters and in IMAX. And for me, it has raised some pretty interesting questions that I have. Now, I actually saw the movie last week. I was under an NDA, so I couldn't talk about it. It's really good, and they use Michael Jackson's music in the film. And so I'm like, who cleared that? Who gave them clearance to use his music? But then I remember, didn't he sell his catalog after his death like last year? Yes, Sony Music bought a stake in Michael Jackson's catalog, valuing rights at over $1.2 billion in 2024. I was brought back to this interview with Lisa Marie Presley and Oprah Winfrey. Does anyone remember when Lisa Marie Presley and Michael Jackson were married? Oprah interviewed Lisa Marie Presley, and she talked about in that video how Michael, when he was alive, was nervous that someone was trying to take his catalog. She said Michael had trouble sleeping, that he was nervous someone was going to take his catalog. He was concerned about this. In 2002, Michael Jackson did a whole campaign against Sony Music and Tommy Mottola. Does anyone remember when Michael was like, Tommy Mottola is very devilish, he treats black artists crazy? Then you mean to tell me Sony Music buys his catalog after he dies? You can't tell me that he's happy with that. Now, this is a little bit of a stretch, but Jermaine Jackson's son, Jafar Jackson, plays Michael in the film. And I don't believe that Michael is the biggest fan of Jermaine. During the late 80s and early 90s, Michael and Jermaine had a little beef. Like when Michael was about to drop Dangerous and Black and White, that music video came out, Jermaine made a whole diss track about Michael Jackson that no one ever talks about. That diss track was called Word to the Bad. It was a diss track from Jermaine Jackson to Michael Jackson. If you don't believe me, look it up. I believe that Michael was a good man. I believe that he was very forgiving, but I feel like somewhere in his soul, he probably was just like, I don't really associate with Jermaine like that, because I feel like they were never that close because Jermaine was a hater. Then you have LaToya, who went to the premiere, and she was just looking there happy doing her thing. But does anyone remember when LaToya literally said that Michael Jackson was a you know what I'm saying? And that he was touching kids? Does anyone remember that? Then she backpedaled and said, oh, like, that was my husband that made me do that. Like, I don't feel that way. I feel like somewhere in her being, she was not necessarily a Michael Jackson fan or like someone that really loved him, but someone that was kind of jealous and a clout chaser. I believe from what I've picked up that the closest person to Michael Jackson in that family was his mother, Catherine, and Janet Jackson. Catherine is still alive. She's there at the premiere. Now, she's 95, so cognitively, I can't really say where she is, but Catherine Jackson was at the premiere. But Janet Jackson is Janet Jackson, alive, kicking well. She knew probably a year prior that this movie was coming. If she co-signed it, believed in it, and was on the side of the film, she would make her presence known. The fact that she's been completely silent on this whole film is a major red flag for me. Then we have Paris Jackson, who is his daughter, who was very close to him. She skipped the premiere as well as Janet. Both of them weren't there. Red flag. Because if someone made a movie off of my father, who I loved, best believe I will move heaven and earth to be there. I could be crazy, but I'm just saying this movie seems a little suspicious to me. The fact that Janet Jackson is not involved, the fact that Paris Jackson is not involved, the fact that Michael Jackson's music is in the film and his catalog was sold to Sony Music, who he did a whole campaign against in 2002, seems like a problem. Jermaine Jackson is a whole hater, made a whole diss track, and his son is the one starring in the film, is a red flag to me. Do you think that Michael Jackson is in his grave proud of this Michael biopic? Let me know in the comments.